She saved a stranger's life with a whispered warning across a restaurant table. Little did she know he was a mafia boss, and that single act of kindness had just painted a target on her back that no amount of running could erase. Anna had learned 3 invaluable things working the night shift at Bellini's, her local haunt. Drunk men always tipped better, their generosity fueled by liquid courage and loosened inhibitions. Couples on first dates invariably ordered far too much food, their attempts at impressing each other often exceeding their appetites. And, perhaps most significantly, everyone, without exception, lied about something, whether big or small, a constant stream of carefully constructed facades. The man in the corner booth was engaged in such deception right now. She'd been observing him intently for the past 20 minutes, not because he possessed any particular physical appeal, although he certainly had that sharp-jawed, expensive cologne look that often came packaged with a hefty dose of self-importance. No, she watched him because something felt fundamentally amiss. He had ordered a single bourbon at precisely 11:47 p.m. A detail etched in her memory. Yet, he hadn't so much as touched it, the amber liquid sitting undisturbed in its glass. His menu lay closed on the table, an unused prop, but his eyes never ceased their restless movement. They tracked the dining room with the unwavering focus of a security camera, lingering longest on the booth by the window, where another man sat alone, meticulously cutting into a perfectly cooked medium-rare steak. Anna refilled water glasses at table 6, her worn sneakers making barely a sound on the tiled floor, a testament to her years of experience in the service industry. The dinner rush had subsided an hour earlier, leaving only 8 customers scattered across the restaurant like chess pieces in the late stages of a game. The kitchen was slowly winding down for the night. She could hear Marco, the head chef, engaged in his nightly argument with the dishwasher about the specifics of tomorrow's delivery, a familiar and comforting ritual. A normal night, almost. The man by the window, Luca Marino, though she only knew his name from the fleeting glimpses she caught of the credit card receipts, was a regular, gracing Bellini's with his presence twice a week. Always alone, always unfailingly polite. He always left a generous 30% tip accompanied by a sincere thank you, miss, a gesture that felt genuinely heartfelt. He never rushed her, never snapped his fingers impatiently, never complained, no matter how minor the perceived inconvenience. In the often cutthroat world of the service industry, that made him a unicorn, a rare and cherished creature. But the man in the corner booth now, he made her skin crawl with an inexplicable sense of unease. She caught her reflection in the brass coat rack near the host stand, a stark reminder of her own weariness. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, betraying the long hours and relentless pressure. Blonde hair escaped its ponytail in unruly strands, a testament to her dwindling energy. She noticed a stubborn sauce stain on her apron, a battle scar she'd long since stopped caring about. 26 years old and working double shifts to cover her mom's mounting medical bills. This was supposed to be temporary, a brief detour on the road to somewhere better. That had been 3 years ago. Focus, Anna, she silently chided herself. Corner booth guy shifted in his seat, his movements subtle but deliberate. His right hand disappeared beneath the table, fingers sliding toward his jacket, a gesture that set off alarm bells in Anna's mind. Her pulse quickened, a primal response to perceived danger. She'd grown up in South Boston, where you learned to read people quickly, to decipher their hidden intentions, or you simply didn't survive middle school, a brutal training ground for social survival. This wasn't paranoia. She knew. This was pure, unadulterated instinct, honed by years of navigating the treacherous currents of human behavior. She glanced at Luca, her gaze fleeting but purposeful. He was absorbed in his phone, completely oblivious to the subtle drama unfolding nearby. The golden light emanating from the vintage chandelier cast soft shadows across his face, highlighting the lines etched around his eyes, a map of his life. Probably mid-30s, she guessed, dark hair graying slightly at the temples. The kind of calm, unhurried demeanor that came from money or power, or perhaps both. Corner booth guy's jaw tightened, his muscles visibly clenching. His hand moved deeper into his jacket, his intentions becoming increasingly clear. Oh God. Anna's training kicked in, her body reacting before her conscious mind fully caught up. She grabbed her serving tray, the familiar weight grounding her, and moved toward Luca's booth with practiced casualness, her movements designed to appear effortless and unhurried. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anxiety, but her face remained neutral, a carefully constructed mask of professional composure. Smile. Always smile, she reminded herself, even as her insides churned with fear. How is everything tonight, Mr. Marino? Her voice came out steady, professional, betraying none of the turmoil raging within. Luca looked up, offering that slight, genuine smile that always seemed to reach his eyes. Excellent, as always. She leaned forward, pretending to adjust empty plates on his table, using the gesture as a pretext to get closer. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for his water glass, her fingers fumbling with the delicate stemware. Don't shout, she whispered, barely moving her lips, her voice a mere breath against the surrounding noise. Her eyes flicked to the corner, conveying the urgency of her warning. Corner booth, jacket. Luca's expression didn't change, remaining impassive, but something shifted in his eyes, a subtle flicker of awareness. Something cold and calculating that transformed his face, making him look like a completely different person, a man capable of ruthless efficiency. He set down his phone slowly, his movements deliberate and controlled. Thank you for the excellent service tonight, Anna. He knew her name. She'd never told him her name, a realization that sent a fresh wave of unease washing over her. Before she could fully process the implication, Luca made a subtle gesture with his left hand, so small it was almost imperceptible. Just a slight movement, fingers curling in a specific pattern, a silent command. Anna heard the soft scrape of chairs from two different tables, the sound amplified in the sudden quiet of the restaurant. Two men she'd assumed were regular customers stood up simultaneously, their movements coordinated, their purpose frighteningly clear, moving with frightening purpose toward the corner booth. Corner booth guy's eyes widened, a flicker of panic replacing his earlier composure. His hand jerked upward, but Luca's men were already there, anticipating his move. One grabbed his wrist, slamming it down on the table with brutal force, the sound echoing in the suddenly silent restaurant. The other moved behind him, effectively blocking any chance of escape. The whole thing took maybe 3 seconds, a swift surgical strike executed with chilling precision. Silent, surgical. Anna stumbled backward, her tray clattering against Luca's table, the sudden noise shattering the tense silence. Easy, Lucas said quietly, his voice low and reassuring, standing. He moved between her and the corner booth, his body a protective wall, shielding her from the unfolding scene. Marco, he called toward the kitchen, his voice carrying a note of authority that brooked no argument. Take your staff to the back. Gas leak. Everyone out now. Marco appeared in the kitchen doorway, his face etched with concern. He took one look at the scene, assessing the situation with a practiced eye, and nodded, understanding the unspoken command. You heard the man, kitchen now. Move. The other diners scattered, confused and disoriented, but obedient, their desire to avoid trouble outweighing their curiosity. Anna stood frozen, her feet rooted to the spot, as the restaurant emptied around her, the sudden silence amplifying the sense of unreality. At the corner booth, one of Luca's men pulled something from the stranger's jacket, his movements swift and efficient. Even from 15 feet away, Anna recognized the shape, the unmistakable silhouette of a deadly weapon. A gun. Black metal, compact, professional. Her knees went weak, threatening to buckle beneath her. Breathe, Luca said, not looking at her, his voice a low rumble that cut through her fear. His attention stayed fixed on the corner booth, where his men were zip-tying the stranger's hands behind his back, rendering him helpless. You're safe. You did good. I don't what? Just who are you? Someone who owes you his life. Luca finally turned to face her, his gaze intense and unwavering. Up close, his eyes were darker than she'd initially thought, pools of intelligence and something else, something dangerous and unpredictable. Go home, Anna. Take the back exit. My man will make sure you get there safely. Your man, Mr. Marino, I don't understand. You will? He pulled a business card from his pocket, pressing it into her shaking hand, his touch surprisingly gentle. Tomorrow, but tonight you need to leave. Trust me. One of his men appeared at her elbow, silent and watchful. Young, maybe 30, built like he lived in a gym, his physique a testament to discipline and dedication. Come on, miss. Let's get you home. Anna let herself be guided toward the kitchen, her mind spinning with confusion and fear, struggling to make sense of the events that had just unfolded. She glanced back once, her gaze drawn to Luca like a moth to a flame. He stood perfectly still, watching as his men dragged the corner booth guy toward the back delivery entrance, his expression unreadable. The would-be assassin's face was pale, contorted with terror, his bravado completely vanished. But Luca's expression was carved from stone, an impenetrable mask that revealed nothing of his thoughts or emotions. In that moment, Anna understood two things with perfect clarity. She just saved someone very dangerous, and her normal life was irrevocably over. Anna's apartment building smelled like old carpet and someone's burned dinner, a familiar and comforting scent that usually grounded her. But tonight it only amplified her sense of unease. She climbed the 3 flights of stairs on autopilot, her legs moving mechanically while her brain struggled to process the chaotic events of the last 2 hours. A gun. There had been a gun, a tangible symbol of the violence that had suddenly invaded her life. The bodyguard, she'd learned his name was Tony during the silent car ride, had dropped her off with a curt nod and a terse, "Lock your door." His words a stark reminder of the danger that now surrounded her. Then he'd driven away in a black SUV that probably cost more than she'd make in 5 years, a symbol of the vast gulf that separated their worlds. She fumbled with her keys, her hands still shaking uncontrollably. The deadbolt clicked, a small victory. Chain lock, a further layer of security. She kicked off her sneakers, the familiar action offering a small measure of comfort, and leaned against the door, closing her eyes, trying to shut out the images that haunted her mind. What the hell just happened? Her studio apartment was exactly as she'd left it that morning. A small, familiar space that suddenly felt alien and unsafe. Unmade bed shoved against one wall, a testament to her chaotic life. Tiny kitchenette with dishes piled in the sink, a constant reminder of her endless to-do list. Her mom's medical bills stacked precariously on the coffee table she'd found on the street, a symbol of her financial struggles. The window air conditioner rattled and groaned, fighting a losing battle against Boston's encroaching October chill. Normal. Everything looked so goddamn normal, a cruel juxtaposition to the reality she now faced. Except nothing was normal anymore. She knew. Everything had changed irrevocably. Anna pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, her heart pounding in her chest. She should call someone, the police, perhaps, but what could she possibly say? That her regular customer had men with guns who had stopped another man with a gun? That sounded insane, like a plot ripped from a bad movie. That sounded like she was making it up, or high, or both. Besides, Luca had said gas leak, a plausible explanation for the sudden evacuation. Marco had gone along with it immediately, no questions asked, his silence suggesting a deeper understanding. Like he knew, like this had happened before, a chilling thought. She dropped onto her sagging couch, still wearing her sauce-stained uniform, the smell of marinara sauce a constant reminder of her interrupted shift. The business card Luca had given her sat in her palm, a tangible link to a world she didn't understand. Heavy cardstock, cream-colored, expensive, just a name, Luca Marino, and a phone number. No title, no company, no indication of his true identity. Who was he, really? Anna grabbed her laptop, her fingers clumsy as she typed his name into Google, sauce still crusted under her fingernails. A small detail that highlighted the surreal nature of the situation. The search results made her stomach drop, a wave of nausea washing over her. Luca Marino, Boston businessman and philanthropist. Marino family acquires waterfront property. Marino Industries expands into construction. Photos of him at charity galas, wearing tuxedos, shaking hands with the mayor, a pillar of the community. Nothing suspicious, nothing illegal, just a rich guy doing rich guy things. But the way those men had moved tonight, the cold, calculated precision, the way that assassin's face had gone white with fear, that wasn't businessman energy. That was something else entirely, something darker and more dangerous. Anna was halfway through her third search page when someone knocked on her door, the sound echoing in the small apartment. 3 firm raps, confident, demanding, leaving no room for doubt. Her blood turned to ice, a primal fear gripping her. She sat frozen, laptop screen glowing in the dark apartment, illuminating her terrified face. Maybe if she stayed quiet, they'd go away. Maybe a desperate hope. Anna, Luca's voice muffled through the door, the sound sending a shiver down her spine. I know you're awake. I can see your light. Her heart jackhammered against her ribs, a frantic rhythm of panic. How did he know where she lived? Stupid question, she chided herself. He had men with guns, an army at his command. Of course, he knows where you live, the chilling realization sinking in. I just want to talk, he continued, his voice softer now, almost pleading. 5 minutes, then I'll leave. Anna stood slowly, her legs feeling like lead, and padded to the door in her socks, her movements hesitant and uncertain. She looked through the peephole, her breath catching in her throat. Luca stood in the hallway alone, except for one man behind him, the same bodyguard who'd been at the restaurant, a silent sentinel. Luca had changed clothes, shedding the expensive suit that had defined his public persona. Now he wore dark jeans and a black leather jacket, looking less like a businessman and more like, well, exactly what he probably was, a man who operated outside the law, a man who wielded power and influence in the shadows. She unhooked the chain lock but kept the deadbolt engaged, opening the door a crack, a small measure of self-preservation. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I know. I'm sorry. He looked genuinely apologetic, his eyes conveying a sincerity that was both unsettling and strangely compelling. But you deserve answers. May I come in? Every instinct screamed no, warning her of the danger she was inviting into her sanctuary. But she'd already saved his life, already witnessed his men drag away an assassin, already memorized his damn phone number. She was already involved, whether she liked it or not. Anna opened the door, her decision made. Luca stepped inside, glancing around her cramped apartment with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not judgment exactly, she thought, more like a detached curiosity. Maybe understanding, a recognition of the different worlds they inhabited. His bodyguard stayed in the hallway, arms crossed, a silent and imposing presence. Nice place, Lucas said quietly, his voice devoid of emotion. Liar, Anna thought, but she didn't say it aloud. Anna crossed her arms, her posture defensive. You didn't come here at 1 a.m. to compliment my decorating. Who are you really? Luca moved to her window, looking out at the dark street below, his gaze distant. The man you warned me about tonight, his name is Vincent Calibris. He works for the Russo family. They sent him to kill me. Anna's throat went dry, her voice a strained whisper. Kill you? Why? Business dispute. He said it like he was discussing the weather, his tone matter-of-fact. The Russos want control of the waterfront development project. I wouldn't negotiate, so they decided to eliminate the problem. Business dispute, Anna repeated slowly, the words sounding absurd in the context of attempted murder. With assassins, Luca. Luca turned to face her, his expression unreadable. In the dim light of her apartment, he looked older, the lines on his face more pronounced, his eyes carrying a weight of weariness. I'm going to be honest with you, Anna, because you saved my life, and you deserve that much. I run operations in Boston that aren't strictly legal. My family has been in this business for 3 generations. The word he didn't say hung in the air between them, unspoken but understood. Mafia. Oh my God. Anna sat down hard on her couch, the reality of her situation crashing down on her. You're actually a businessman, Luca finished calmly, who sometimes conducts business in unconventional ways. That's a hell of a euphemism for organized crime, she retorted, her voice laced with sarcasm. A slight smile tugged at his mouth, a fleeting glimpse of amusement. I prefer family business. The smile faded, replaced by a look of grim determination. But here's the problem. Vincent didn't work alone. The Russos know someone warned me. They have eyes everywhere, including at Bellini's. By now, they know it was you. Anna's stomach dropped, a cold pit of dread forming in her abdomen. What does that mean? Luca pulled an envelope from his jacket, setting it on her coffee table. $20,000, enough to disappear for a few months. New city, new job. My people will make sure you're protected. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her, a tangible representation of the danger she now faced. You're paying me to leave. I'm paying you to survive. His voice hardened, brooking no argument. The Russos don't leave loose ends. Anna, you made yourself a target the second you whispered in my ear. Anger flared hot in her chest, a surge of defiance pushing back against her fear. I saved your life. I know. And now I'm trying to save yours. He moved toward the door, then paused, turning back to face her. Be careful who you talk to about tonight. Trust no one. If you see anything suspicious, anything at all, you call that number. Day or night. Wait. Anna stood, her mind racing, grappling with the implications of his words. What if I don't want to run? Lucas studied her for a long moment, his gaze intense and penetrating. Then you're braver than I thought. Or more foolish, he added, his tone tinged with a hint of admiration. He opened the door. Lock this behind me, and Anna, get better locks. Then he was gone, disappearing into the night. His bodyguard falling into step behind him, a silent and watchful guardian. Anna locked the door with shaking hands, staring at the envelope on her coffee table, the weight of its contents a heavy burden. Outside, a car engine started, then faded into the distance, leaving her alone with her thoughts. She was alone with $20,000 in cash and the creeping certainty that her life had just been split into two distinct parts. Before tonight and everything that came after, a clear demarcation in the timeline of her existence. Anna didn't take the money. The envelope sat unopened on her coffee table all night, a silent challenge, while she stared at her ceiling, too wired to sleep, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. By 6 a.m., she'd made her decision, a firm resolution that banished all doubt. She wasn't running. She wouldn't be driven from her home. She'd spent 3 years running, from her ex, from her mistakes, from the life she'd thought she'd have. She was done running, finished with the constant cycle of flight and evasion. Besides, where would she even go? Her mom was in a nursing home in Quincy, dependent on her care. Her entire life was here, as small and messy as it was, woven into the fabric of the city. So, she showered, put on her uniform, and went to work, defying the fear that gnawed at her insides. Marco nearly dropped his spatula when she walked into Bellini's at 5 p.m. His reaction a testament to the unexpectedness of her arrival. Jesus Christ, you okay? He rushed over, his weathered face creased with concern, his eyes searching hers for answers. After last night, I thought, I'm fine. She tied her apron, avoiding his eyes, focusing on the familiar task. Gas leak, right? Everyone's fine. Marco lowered his voice, his tone serious. That wasn't a gas leak, Anna. I know, Anna. I need this job, Marco. She finally looked at him, her eyes pleading. I need normal. Can you give me that just for tonight? He studied her for a long moment, his gaze assessing her strength and resolve, then nodded slowly, his decision made. Your section is tables 1 through 6. We're late tonight, Thursday crowd. She squeezed his arm gratefully, a silent expression of her appreciation, and headed to the floor, determined to reclaim some semblance of normalcy. The dinner shift started normally enough, a comforting rhythm of familiar faces and routine tasks. A couple celebrating an anniversary at table 3, their eyes locked in a shared moment of happiness. A businessman with his laptop at table 5, his fingers flying across the keyboard, oblivious to the world around him. An elderly woman who ordered soup and complained about the temperature, a perennial fixture at Bellini's. Normal, blessedly, beautifully normal, except for the black sedan parked across the street, a subtle intrusion that shattered the illusion of safety. Anna first noticed it when she was refilling water glasses, her gaze inadvertently drawn to the vehicle. The car sat under a broken streetlight, shrouded in shadow, engine running, exhaust puffing into the October air, a silent and watchful presence. Two men inside, their faces obscured by the darkness. One was smoking, the red glow of his cigarette punctuating the gloom. The other had his phone pointed at the restaurant entrance, recording her every move. Her hands trembled, betraying her inner turmoil, sloshing water onto the tablecloth. The sound amplified in the sudden silence. "Sweetie, you okay?" the anniversary woman asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I'm so sorry," Anna stammered, flustered by her clumsiness. She mopped up the water with a napkin, forcing a smile, desperate to maintain her composure. "Be right back with your entrees." She ducked into the kitchen, her heart pounding in her chest, seeking refuge from the scrutiny. Through the small window in the door, she watched the sedan. Still there, still running, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just outside. The man with the phone hadn't moved, his unwavering focus a chilling reminder of their relentless surveillance. "Anna?" Marco appeared beside her, his face etched with concern. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm fine," she insisted, but her voice cracked, betraying her anxiety. Marco followed her gaze to the sedan, his jaw tightening, his expression hardening. "How long has that car been there?" "I don't know. 20 minutes. He pulled out his phone, his fingers moving quickly across the screen, typing a message. Anna didn't ask who he was texting. She had a pretty good idea, a silent understanding passing between them. "Stay inside," Marco said quietly, his tone leaving no room for argument. "I'll handle the trash tonight." "Marco, you don't have to stay." "Inside," he repeated, his tone firm, brooking no argument, his concern for her safety overriding his own. But at 9 p.m., the kitchen got slammed with a sudden rush, a wave of orders overwhelming the staff. Marco was drowning in requests, yelling at the line cooks, trying to maintain order amidst the chaos. 3 full bags of trash sat by the back door, a growing pile of refuse. The smell was getting rank, permeating the air. Anna grabbed the bags before she could overthink it, her decision made. 2 minutes, she muttered to herself, her voice barely audible. Dumpster and back. That's it. The alley behind Bellini's was narrow and dark, a grimy passage lit only by a single flickering bulb above the door, casting long, distorted shadows. The dumpster sat 15 feet away, surrounded by puddles that never fully dried, reflecting the dim light, and the faint smell of rotting produce, a constant reminder of the restaurant's waste. Anna had made this walk 1,000 times, a routine chore that had never given her a second thought. Tonight, it felt like walking off a cliff, each step a deliberate act of defiance. She hurled the first bag into the dumpster, the sound echoing off the brick walls, shattering the silence. Then the second, the crash equally loud, a stark intrusion in the stillness of the night. She turned to head back inside, her heart pounding in her chest. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the mouth of the alley, the sound amplified in the confined space. Anna's blood turned to ice, her breath catching in her throat. A man stepped into view, silhouetted against the street light beyond, his features obscured by the darkness. Tall, broad-shouldered, his presence imposing, hands in his jacket pockets, his posture casual but menacing. "Evening," he said. His voice was smooth, casual, yet terrifying, sending a shiver down her spine. Anna's hand found her pocket, closing around her keys, her fingers fumbling for a weapon. The little canister of pepper spray her mom had given her for self-defense was in her locker, a useless gesture in the face of real danger. "Restaurant's closed," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, projecting an air of confidence she didn't feel. "I'm not hungry." He took another step closer, closing the distance between them. "I just want to talk." "I'm not interested." She edged toward the door, desperate to escape. The man moved to block her path, his movements deliberate and predatory, trapping her in the confined space. It'll just take a minute about what you saw last night. A car engine roared to life, shattering the tense silence. Headlights flooded the alley, bright and blinding, illuminating the scene in stark relief. A gray SUV screeched to a stop at the alley's entrance, blocking the man's escape route, cutting off his retreat. Two men jumped out, their movements swift and purposeful. One of them was Tony, Luca's bodyguard from last night, his presence a beacon of hope. The stranger's casual demeanor shattered, replaced by a look of raw fear. He spun, reaching for something in his jacket, his intentions clear. "Don't." Tony's voice was cold steel, cutting through the tension. His hand rested on something under his own jacket, a silent warning. "Walk away now." The stranger's eyes flicked between Tony, Anna, and the other bodyguard, calculating the odds, assessing the threat. Then he slowly raised his hands and backed away, melting into the darkness beyond the alley. His bravado vanished. Anna's legs gave out, her strength abandoning her. She caught herself against the brick wall, gasping for air, her body trembling uncontrollably. Tony approached carefully, hands visible, his movements slow and deliberate, reassuring her. "You okay, miss? What? How did you?" "We've been watching the Watchers," he explained, his tone professional. He glanced at his partner. "Check the perimeter." The other man nodded and disappeared, melting into the shadows. "You've been following me?" Anger cut through Anna's fear, a surge of resentment pushing back against her gratitude. "All day. Mr. Marino's orders. For your protection." "I didn't ask for protection," she retorted, her voice sharp. "You don't have to ask." Tony's expression softened slightly, a hint of empathy in his eyes. "That man, he works for the Russos. Same family that sent the shooter last night. They're not gonna stop Anna, not until they get what they want." "Which is what?" "Me dead." Information leverage. Tony pulled out his phone, typing quickly. "Or yes, maybe dead. Depends on their mood." Anna wanted to scream or cry or both, overwhelmed by the sheer absurdity of the situation. Instead, she pushed off the wall and headed for the door, her determination hardening. "I need to finish my shift," she insisted, her voice trembling but resolute. "Anna, thank you for the help. Really, but I need." Her voice broke, her control slipping. "I need to go back to normal just for one more hour, please." Tony studied her, his gaze assessing her strength and vulnerability, then nodded slowly, his decision made. "We'll be outside. You see anything weird, you come straight to us." "Understood?" She nodded, her agreement implicit, and slipped back into the kitchen, seeking refuge in the familiar routine. Marco took one look at her face and handed her a glass of water, his eyes filled with concern. He didn't ask questions, respecting her need for silence. Through the kitchen window, Anna watched the gray SUV park across from the black sedan. A silent standoff under the flickering streetlights, a constant reminder of the war raging beneath the surface. The envelope of money sat unopened at home, a constant temptation, but running was starting to sound a lot more reasonable, a way to escape the danger that now surrounded her. The text came Saturday morning at 9 a.m., shattering the fragile peace. "Meet me at Rosie's Cafe, 10 a.m. We need to talk, Luca." Anna stared at her phone, still in bed, her mind reeling. She hadn't slept well in 2 days. Every car engine outside her window made her jump. Every footstep in the hallway sent her heart racing. She should ignore the text, block the number, pretend none of this was happening, retreat into the safety of denial. Instead, she got dressed, her curiosity and a sense of grim determination overriding her fear. Rosie's Cafe was a hole-in-the-wall place 3 blocks from her apartment, a world away from the glitz and glamour of Bellini's. Chipped mugs, mismatched chairs, coffee that tasted like it had been brewed in 1987, a testament to its enduring history. The opposite of the sleek Italian restaurant where this nightmare had started, a deliberate choice, she suspected. Lucas sat in the back corner booth, his presence surprisingly unassuming. He was wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, blending into the background. No bodyguards visible, though Anna suspected they were nearby, watching from a distance. He looked almost normal, a fleeting illusion of normalcy. Almost. Thanks for coming, he gestured to the seat across from him, his smile genuine. I ordered you a coffee. Cream, 2 sugars. Anna froze halfway to the table, her senses on high alert. How do you know how I take my coffee? I pay attention, he replied. A hint of amusement in his voice. A slight smile played on his lips. You always made it the same way during your breaks at Bellini's. She sat down slowly, unsettled by his attentiveness. That's either thoughtful or creepy, she mused, probably both, a reflection of his complex nature. He pushed the mug toward her, his gaze unwavering. How are you holding up? Oh, fantastic, she retorted, her sarcasm thinly veiled. I love being stalked by mobsters. Really adds excitement to my life. The sarcasm came out sharper than she intended. A release of pent-up frustration. Luca didn't flinch, his expression remaining impassive. I know you're scared. You have every right to be. Scared? Anna laughed bitterly, the sound devoid of humor. I'm terrified. I can't sleep. I can't think. Yesterday, I almost pepper-sprayed the mailman because he knocked too loud. She confessed, her voice trembling. She leaned forward, lowering her voice, her eyes pleading. I saved your life and now mine is falling apart. So, forgive me if I'm not in the mood for coffee and small talk. You're right. Luca's expression grew serious, his eyes filled with understanding. Which is why I wanted to meet somewhere neutral. Somewhere we could talk honestly. He paused, choosing his words carefully. No more euphemisms. No more businessman. You deserve the truth. Anna wrapped her hands around the warm mug, seeking solace in its heat. Okay. Truth. My family has controlled certain operations in Boston for 40 years, he began, his voice low and measured. Legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction, real estate, but also other things. Protection, loans, territory. He met her eyes steadily, his gaze unwavering. I inherited this empire when my father died 5 years ago. I didn't choose it, but I accepted it. And I've been trying to keep it from turning into a war ever since. The Russos want war. The Russos want everything. They've been pushing into our territory for months, bribing city officials, intimidating our partners, undercutting our contracts. His jaw tightened, his anger barely concealed. Vincent Calabrese wasn't the first attempt on my life. He was the fourth. Anna's coffee suddenly tasted like ash, a bitter taste in her mouth. Fourth, she repeated, her voice barely audible. I've survived 3 car bombs, 2 shootings, and now a restaurant assassination, he said it matter-of-factly, like he was listing grocery items, the casualness of his tone masking the brutality of his existence. Your warning saved me because Vincent was smart. He waited, studied my patterns, learned I travel with minimal security to Bellini's because I thought it was safe. It was safe, until I opened my mouth, she interjected, her voice filled with self-reproach. No, Luca's voice turned fierce, brooking no argument. You saved my life. Don't twist that into something else. But now the Russos know about me. They know I'm. She couldn't finish the sentence, the implications too terrifying to voice. A witness, a variable, someone who could testify if I go to war with them. Luca leaned back, running a hand through his hair, his face etched with weariness. They're watching you to see if you're important to me, if you're leverage. Am I important to you? The question hung in the air, unspoken but pregnant with meaning. You should be irrelevant, Lucas said quietly, his voice tinged with regret. A waitress who happened to be observant. But he trailed off, his gaze softening. Something complicated crossing his face. A flicker of emotion that belied his words. You risked everything to warn a stranger. You didn't panic. You didn't freeze. You just acted. That kind of courage is rare. Anna felt heat creep up her neck, her cheeks flushing. I just did what anyone would do. Most people look away. You looked closer. He pulled out another envelope, thinner than the first, setting it on the table between them. $50,000, new identity papers, a contact in Seattle who can set you up with a job and an apartment. You could be gone by Monday. She pushed the envelope back across the table, her movements decisive. No, Anna, I'm not running. Her voice was steady now, her resolve firm. My mom is here. She has early onset Alzheimer's. I visit her every Sunday. She barely remembers me most days, but I'm all she has. Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them back, refusing to succumb to despair. I can't just disappear. I won't. Lucas studied her for a long moment, his gaze searching hers, seeking understanding. Then what do you want? I want my life back. I want to go to. I want to work without being followed. And I want to sleep without having nightmares. She gave a shaky laugh. I want to stop being a pawn in someone else's war. I can't give you that. Not yet. He leaned forward a bit. But what I can do is protect you. Full security detail, safe house if you need it, new locks, a whole security system. No. Anna's tone was firm. Anna, be reasonable here, he urged. I can take care of myself. She stood up and grabbed her jacket. I've been doing it for 26 years. I don't need some mafia bodyguard following me to the grocery store. Lucas stood up too, frustration evident on his face. Your independence isn't going to stop a bullet. Maybe not, she conceded, meeting his gaze directly. But I'm not becoming a prisoner in my own life either. You want to help? Find whoever's watching me and make them stop. End this war before someone else gets hurt, but don't ask me to hide. She walked out before he had a chance to respond. Outside, the autumn air had a bite to it against her cheeks. Her hands were shaking, whether from adrenaline, fear, or maybe just plain exhaustion. She wasn't sure. A gray SUV was parked across the street. Tony was in the driver's seat, watching her intently. Anna flipped him off and started walking home. Inside the cafe, Luca pulled out his phone and dialed. Boss. Tony's voice came through the speaker. Double the detail. Round-the-clock surveillance. I want eyes on her apartment, her work, her mother's facility. Luca watched Anna's retreating figure through the window. She doesn't want protection. Give it to her anyway. Yes, sir. Anything else? Luca smiled slightly. Yeah. Stay out of sight. She's got one hell of a right hook, and she's stubborn enough to use it. He hung up, leaving cash on the table to cover both untouched coffees. The war was coming whether Anna wanted it to or not. At the very least, he could make sure she survived it. Anna really should have called in sick. The Saturday dinner shift at Bellini's started normally enough. Couples, families, the usual weekend crowd. But by 7 o'clock, something felt off. Do you notice that guy at table 8? Jessica, the other waitress on shift, whispered as they crossed paths near the host stand. She was 22, an art school dropout, and usually only worried about her tips. He's been here an hour, ordered an appetizer, and hasn't touched it. Anna glanced over. Mid-30s, dark jacket, sitting alone by the window. His eyes tracked every person who entered, but he never looked at his phone or read the menu. Just watching. Maybe he's waiting for someone, Anna said, but her stomach tightened with unease. Maybe. Jessica didn't sound convinced at all. But there's another one at table 12 doing the same thing, and one outside has been smoking the same cigarette for 20 minutes. Anna's blood went cold. She looked at table 12. Different man, same energy, alert, watching. They're probably just... Anna. Jessica's voice dropped to a near whisper. What happened Thursday night? Marco won't tell me anything, but I heard the police came. And now these guys. Her voice trailed off, her eyes wide with concern. Are you in some kind of trouble? No. I mean, it's complicated. Anna forced a smile, trying to sound reassuring. Just keep your head down, okay? Don't engage with them. Jessica looked like she wanted to argue, but the host seated a new party in her section. She hurried off, casting worried glances back at the window tables. Anna retreated to the kitchen, her heart pounding in her chest. Marco was plating salmon, his movements sharp and angry. You see them? She asked quietly. Hard to miss. He didn't look up. 3 inside, 2 outside. They've been rotating since we opened. Marco, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this. Not your fault. He finally met her eyes, his expression softening slightly. But this can't continue. My other staff are scared. Customers are noticing. This is a restaurant, Not. He gestured helplessly, searching for the right word. Whatever this is. The kitchen door swung open. Jessica poked her head in, her face pale. Anna, table 14 wants you specifically. Who's at 14? Just, come look. Anna's legs felt like lead as she walked back to the dining room. Table 14 was the corner booth, Luca's usual spot. And there he sat, menu open, completely calm, as if it were any other Saturday night. Their eyes met across the restaurant. His expression was unreadable, but something in his posture, the set of his shoulders, the way his hands rested on the table, radiated controlled tension. He was here for a reason, and it wasn't dinner. Anna grabbed her order pad and approached the table, hyper-aware of the watchers tracking her every movement. The man at table 8 leaned forward slightly. The one at table 12 shifted in his seat. The entire restaurant suddenly felt like a powder keg ready to blow. Mr. Marino. She kept her voice professional, projecting a normalcy she definitely didn't feel. Welcome back, Anna. His tone was warm, but his eyes were cold steel. I apologize for the short notice. I hope a table was available. Always a table for our regulars. The script felt absurd. They both knew this wasn't about dinner. Excellent. He closed the menu without even looking at it. The usual, please. And perhaps you could check if we have that special key from Thursday night, the one from the corner storage. Corner storage. The corner booth where Vincent had been on Thursday. Anna's pen trembled slightly in her hand. I'll check with Marco. As she turned away, Luca's hand caught her wrist. Gentle but firm. Be careful tonight, he murmured, his voice low. Things might get complicated. She pulled away and fled to the kitchen. He's here, she told Marco, her voice tight with a mixture of fear and resignation. I know. Marco is already on his phone. Stay in the kitchen. I'll handle his table. No. The word surprised even herself. He asked for me specifically. If I hide, it'll look suspicious. Marco studied her, his expression unreadable, then nodded reluctantly. Keep your head down. Don't get involved in whatever's about to happen. But she was already involved. She'd been involved the moment she whispered, Don't shout. Anna carried Luca's dinner out at 7:45. The restaurant was full now. Normal people having normal Saturday dinners, completely unaware that they were sitting in a minefield. As she set down Luca's plate, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. 2 new customers had entered. They sat at the bar, not ordering drinks. Both wore leather jackets, despite the indoor heating, and both kept their right hands free. And one of them, dark hair, a noticeable scar above his left eye, was the man from the alley, the one Tony had chased off. Anna. Luca's voice snapped her attention back. The wine, right? Sorry, she mumbled, her pulse thundering in her ears. She hurried to the bar. Behind the bar, Jessica was refilling glasses, oblivious to the tension. The 2 new arrivals sat only a few feet away, their eyes fixed on Luca. Anna grabbed a bottle of Chianti with shaking hands. As she turned back, she saw it. The subtle choreography unfolding around her. The man at table 8 stood and moved toward the bathrooms, passing close to Luca's booth. The man outside crushed his cigarette and entered the restaurant. The 2 at the bar shifted on their stools, their hands moving toward their jackets. And through the front window, Anna saw Tony and another bodyguard emerge from the gray SUV, flanking the entrance. Oh, God, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Luca caught her eye. He gave the smallest shake of his head. Not yet. Stay calm. But calm was impossible. The air itself felt electric, charged with a violence that was just waiting to explode. A customer laughed at table 6, completely oblivious. Silverware clinked at table 3. Normal sounds in an abnormal moment. The man from the alley stood. His partner at the bar did the same. Outside, Tony's hand disappeared under his jacket. Anna's world narrowed to a pinpoint. She saw it all, the angles, the positions, the way everyone was moving like pieces on a chessboard. The restaurant where she'd worked for 3 years had transformed into something alien and terrifying. This wasn't Bellini's anymore. This was a battlefield waiting for the first shot. Luca took a deliberate bite of his dinner, completely relaxed, but his eyes never left the bar. Anna. Jessica appeared at her elbow, her face etched with worry. You okay? You look. Get in the kitchen. Anna's voice came out flat, devoid of any emotion. Now. And tell Marco to send everyone to the walk-in cooler. Say there's a... The front door burst open. 3 men in dark suits entered, moving with military precision. And Anna recognized the one in front from the photos she'd Googled after her first meeting with Luca. Anthony Russo, head of the Russo family. The real war had just walked through the door. Anthony Russo didn't bother to sit down. He stood in the entrance of Bellini's like he owned it, flanked by his men, and smiled. Luca Marino having dinner in public. How brave. The restaurant went silent. Customers looked up from their meals, sensing the shift in atmosphere, even if they didn't understand it. Luca set down his fork carefully. Anthony, I don't recall inviting you. Funny thing about public spaces. Russo's smile widened. No invitation needed. Tony appeared in the doorway behind Russo's men, his hands still inside his jacket. The 2 groups faced each other, a tense standoff in the middle of a family restaurant. Anna pressed herself against the bar, her heart hammering against her ribs. Gentlemen. Marco's voice cut through the tension. He emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. I'm going to have to ask you to take this outside. You're disturbing my customers. Russo's eyes flicked to Marco, then to Anna. His gaze lingered on her for a long, calculating moment. Of course. My apologies. He turned back to Luca. We'll continue this conversation later, somewhere more private. Looking forward to it, Luca replied coldly, his voice devoid of any warmth. Russo and his men left. Tony followed them out. The restaurant exhaled collectively, but Anna saw the look Russo had given her. She'd been marked, identified, catalogued as leverage. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of fear and forced normalcy. Customers ate, dishes were cleared, and Jessica kept asking if she was okay until Anna snapped at her to stop. By 11 o'clock, the last diners had left. Marco sent Jessica home early and started the closing procedures. Luca had departed an hour ago, leaving a $100 tip and a warning whispered as he passed. Go straight home tonight. Don't stop anywhere. But restaurants didn't close themselves. The trash needed taking out, the floors needed mopping, and the routine couldn't be abandoned just because Anna was terrified. I've got the trash, Marco said, reading her mind. You've done it twice already this week. Anna grabbed 2 heavy bags. I'm not helpless, Marco. Anna, 2 minutes. That's it, he said firmly. She pushed through the back door before he could argue. The alley was darker than usual. The security light had burned out, leaving only the ambient glow from the street beyond. Anna's breath misted in the cold October air as she heaved the first bag into the dumpster. The second bag was heavier. She struggled with it, grunting as she lifted. A hand clamped over her mouth. Another arm wrapped around her waist, yanking her backward. The trash bag fell, splitting open, garbage spilling across the wet pavement. Anna's scream died against the palm pressed to her lips. She thrashed, but her attacker was strong, dragging her toward a van idling at the alley's mouth. Stop fighting. A voice hissed in her ear. Make this easy. Hell no. Anna's hand found the box cutter in her apron pocket, the one she used for opening cardboard boxes. She yanked it out and slashed backward blindly. The man cursed, his grip loosening. Anna drove her elbow into his ribs and twisted free. Grab her. Another man emerged from behind the dumpster. Anna ran, but the alley was a dead end. Her only escape was past them. She grabbed the dumpster lid and swung it open, the metal crashing loudly. The first attacker lunged. She sidestepped and kicked, her sneaker connecting with his knee. He stumbled, but the second man was faster. He caught her arm, twisting it painfully behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder. Stop, he snarled. We just want to talk. Liar. Anna stomped on his instep, grabbed a broken bottle from the ground, and swung. Glass shattered against his forearm. He released her with a howl. They were herding her toward the van. 2 against 1. She was losing. The first attacker pulled a gun. Headlights flooded the alley. The gray SUV screeched to a halt, blocking the van. Tony emerged like a missile, tackling the armed man before he could even aim. The gun skittered uselessly across the pavement. The second attacker grabbed Anna again, using her as a shield. His arm locked tightly around her throat, cutting off her air supply. "Back off," he yelled at Tony. "Back off or I'll break her neck." Tony froze, his hands raised in surrender. Anna couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in her vision. She clawed desperately at the arm around her throat. Panic, overwhelming training instinct, everything collided. A single gunshot cracked through the alley. The pressure around her neck vanished instantly. Anna collapsed, gasping for air as her attacker crumpled behind her. She turned, saw the neat hole in his shoulder, and saw him writhing on the ground. Luca stood at the alley entrance, gun raised, his face carved from stone. He wasn't the polite customer from the restaurant, not the businessman in expensive suits. This was someone else entirely, someone capable of pulling a trigger without hesitation. "Get her to the car," he said quietly, his voice brooking no argument. "Now." Tony helped Anna to her feet. Her legs wouldn't work properly, and she stumbled, nearly falling. Luca walked past her to the wounded man, crouched down, and pressed the gun barrel against the man's forehead. "Tell Russo," Luca said, his voice devoid of any emotion whatsoever, "that if he ever comes near her again, I'll burn his entire operation to the ground, every business, every safe house, everyone he loves." He stood up, his movements fluid and lethal. "You have 1 hour to leave Boston. After that, you're a corpse." The man nodded frantically, blood spreading across his shirt. Tony guided Anna to the SUV. She looked back once, saw Luca standing over the 2 attackers, his men arriving to clean up the scene, and saw Marco in the doorway, phone to his ear, his face pale. Her world tilted on its axis. She'd saved a stranger's life and thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't an ending at all. It was the beginning of something darker, deeper, and infinitely more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Luca slid into the SUV beside her, the gun disappearing back into his jacket. "Are you hurt?" Anna touched her throat. "It would definitely bruise." "I'm alive. I should have stopped this." Fury cracked through his carefully controlled facade. "I should have." "You shot him." Her voice sounded distant, strange to her own ears. "You could have killed him." "I wanted to." He met her eyes, and she saw the truth there. The violence, the rage, the monster that lay beneath the polished veneer of the businessman. "I wanted to put a bullet in his brain for touching you." Anna should have been terrified, should have demanded to be let out of the car immediately. Instead, she understood. The danger wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was real, it was bloody, it was inescapable, and she was already drowning in it. Luca's house wasn't what Anna had expected. She'd imagined something out of a movie. Marble columns, gaudy fountains, gold everywhere. Instead, Tony drove them to a modest brownstone in Beacon Hill, tucked inconspicuously between doctors' offices and law firms. Elegant but understated, a place that blended seamlessly into the neighborhood. Inside, it was different. Security cameras, reinforced doors, and windows that Anna suspected were bulletproof. The living room looked relatively normal, with a leather couch, bookshelves, and a chess set on a side table. But the basement door was made of solid steel. "Sit." Luca gestured toward the couch. "You want water? Something stronger? Answers." Anna's voice shook. "I want answers." Luca poured 2 glasses of whiskey anyway and pressed one into her hand. "Drink. You're in shock." She was. Her hands trembled so badly that the whiskey sloshed over the rim of the glass. The bruises on her throat were already darkening, and every time she swallowed, she felt phantom hands choking her. "They tried to kidnap me." The words came out flat, disconnected from the reality of the situation. "They wanted leverage. If they'd gotten you into that van," Luca's jaw clenched tightly, They would have used you to force me into negotiating territory. And when I refused, because I would have refused, they'd have killed you to make a point. Anna downed the whiskey in one burning gulp. This is insane. This entire situation is insane. I'm a waitress. I serve pasta. I'm not supposed to be part of mob wars and kidnappings. Her voice cracked. Luca sat beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. I know, and I'm sorry. I've tried to protect you without involving you, but clearly that's not working. So what now? I hide in your house forever? Get a new face and move to Seattle? Bitter laughter bubbled up from her throat. I can't do this, Luca. I can't live like this. I know. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Which is why we need to end it. Anna looked at him, really looked at him. He had blood on his sleeve, and it wasn't his own. His eyes were exhausted, ringed with dark shadows. This war was destroying him, too. How? She asked quietly. The Russos have one more assassin in Boston. Luca's voice hardened. Professional, expensive. They're saving him for when I least expect it. How do you know? Because I have people inside their organization, and they have people inside mine. He met her eyes. This assassin, his name is Dmitry Volkov, former Russian military. He specializes in close-range kills, quiet, clean, efficient. Anna's stomach dropped like a stone. And you think he's coming for you? No. Luca's expression turned even more grim. I think he's coming for you. The room spun. What? Think about it. Every time they've tried to take me out directly, they've failed. But you're unprotected, vulnerable. If Volkov kills you, it sends a message. No one around me is safe. It demoralizes my people, makes me look weak. Russo is changing tactics. He's going after my humanity instead of my body. So I'm bait. Anna's voice was hollow. That's what you're saying. That's what you already are. Luca turned to face her. The difference is whether we use it strategically or wait for him to strike on his terms. You want me to what? Walk around like a target and hope your guys are faster than a professional assassin? No. Luca pulled out a tablet, opening a set of floor plans. Bellini's restaurant. I want to control the environment. Volkov will expect you to be at work, following your normal routine. We use that. Set the trap at the restaurant when we know he's coming. Anna stared at the screen, feeling a chill run down her spine. You want to turn Bellini's into an ambush? I want to end this war before anyone else gets hurt. His voice softened. But I need your help. Volkov is smart. He'll sense a trap. If anything feels off, everything needs to look normal, which means you need to act normal, work your shift, serve tables, trust that we'll be there. Trust. Anna laughed bitterly, the sound tinged with disbelief. You're asking me to trust that I won't end up with a bullet in my head. Yes. The honesty stunned her. No platitudes, no false promises, just the brutal truth. And if I say no? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Then we'll find another way. It'll take longer. More people will get caught in the crossfire. Luca closed the tablet, his gaze unwavering. But I won't force you. This has to be your choice. Anna stood and walked to the window. Outside, Beacon Hill was quiet. Expensive cars, historical plaques, tourists taking photos, normal people living normal lives. She thought about Jessica, scared and confused. Marco lying to protect her. The elderly woman who always complained about the soup temperature. All the innocent people who came to Bellini's just to eat dinner. How many more? She asked quietly, her voice laced with a deep sense of weariness. What? How many more people get hurt if this keeps going? If you and Russo keep fighting, how many innocent people end up in the crossfire? Luca was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Too many. Anna touched the bruises on her throat, a physical reminder of the violence that had already touched her life. She tried to stay uninvolved, tried to just do her job, keep her head down and survive. But survival wasn't enough anymore. The Russos had come into her restaurant, her alley, her life. They'd put their hands on her, threatened her. She was done being a victim. Okay. She turned to face Luca, her decision made. I'll do it, But not because I trust you. Not because I'm part of your world. I'm doing this so everyone else can go back to normal. Something shifted in Luca's expression. Surprise, respect, maybe something deeper. You're braver than most of my soldiers. I'm terrified, Anna corrected him, her voice firm. But I'm more tired than scared. Tired of running. Tired of looking over my shoulder. She moved closer, her eyes locked on his. So tell me the plan. All of it. No lies, no protection. If I'm bait, I deserve to know exactly how this trap works. Luca studied her for a long moment, his gaze intense, then nodded slowly. Sit down. This is going to take a while. They spent the next 3 hours meticulously planning every detail. Luca laid out the positions, the timing, and the signals. His men would be disguised as customers. Tony would be in the kitchen, ready to react. Sharpshooters would be positioned across the street, covering the windows. And Anna would be the spider in the center of the web, serving tables and waiting for a killer. As midnight approached, Luca walked her to the door. You can still change your mind. I won't. Anna met his eyes, her gaze unwavering. Just promise me one thing. What? When this is over, when Volkov is caught and Russo backs off, you let me disappear. Back to my normal life. No more bodyguards, no more envelopes full of cash. No more of this. Luca's expression was unreadable, giving nothing away. I promise. She didn't believe him, not entirely, but she also didn't have a choice. The war was ending one way or another, and she'd made her decision. Tuesday night, Bellini's was half full, enough customers to look normal, but not so crowded that innocent civilians would be caught in the crossfire. Anna tied her apron with steady hands, forcing herself to remain calm. The fear was still there, coiled tightly in her stomach, but she'd made her peace with it. Tonight would end one way or another. You okay? Marco asked quietly, his eyes full of concern. No, but I will be. She grabbed her order pad and forced a smile. Let's get this over with. Luca's men were strategically positioned throughout the restaurant. At table 3, an older couple who were actually Tony and another bodyguard in disguise. The businessman at the bar nursing a bourbon. The maintenance worker who'd been fixing the bathroom light for the past hour. Luca himself sat in his usual corner booth, reading a newspaper as if it were any other ordinary evening. Anna started her shift, took orders, delivered food, and smiled at customers who had no idea they were sitting in a carefully orchestrated trap. 8:47 p.m. The front door opened. A man entered, mid-40s, gray sport coat, carrying a worn leather messenger bag. He looked like a college professor, wire-rimmed glasses, slightly rumpled appearance, a forgettable face. He requested a table by the window. Anna's instinct screamed, too normal, too carefully average. She watched him from the corner of her eye as she refilled water glasses at another table, her movements slow and deliberate. He ordered coffee and tiramisu, opened his messenger bag, and pulled out a laptop. He started typing, his posture perfectly ordinary except for his eyes. They swept the room with military precision, cataloging exits, counting staff, measuring distances, analyzing everything. Dmitry Volkov. Anna's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept moving, clearing plates at table 5, laughing at a customer's joke, trying desperately to appear normal. She had to look normal. She passed Luca's booth, adjusting her tray as she walked by. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Anna gave the smallest, almost imperceptible nod, the prearranged signal. Luca's hand moved to his coffee cup, the prearranged cue. Everything happened fast, unfolding with practiced precision. The couple at table 3 stood simultaneously. The businessman at the bar moved purposefully toward the window. The maintenance worker emerged from the bathroom. Dmitry Volkov's hand dove into his messenger bag. Gun! Tony shouted, his voice cutting through the sudden tension. Customers screamed, and tables overturned. Anna dropped. She dropped her tray and scrambled behind the host stand as all hell broke loose. But Dmitry didn't reach for a weapon. Instead, he snatched up a phone and jabbed at a button. Click. Nothing. Dmitry's eyes went wide with genuine surprise. He glanced at the phone, then at Luca, and suddenly let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Clever," he said, his Russian accent thick. "You found the bomb." Anna's blood ran cold. "Bomb under your car," Luca said calmly, standing tall. "Disabled 3 hours ago. Did you really think we wouldn't check?" Dimitri slowly raised his hands. "Worth a try." His eyes locked onto Anna's. "You're the waitress, the one who sees everything." Tony and 2 other guys surrounded him, guns drawn. They zip-tied his hands behind his back with brutal efficiency. But Dimitri kept talking. "You know what's funny? Russo didn't send me to kill her." He nodded toward Anna. "He sent me to recruit her." Anna gasped. "What? You saved Marino's life. You're observant, brave, resourceful." Dimitri grinned. "Russo wanted to offer you money. Real money to be his eyes inside Marino's world. Said a woman like you was wasted serving pasta." The room fell silent. "And if I refused?" Anna asked quietly. "Then I had permission to kill you." Dimitri shrugged as Tony dragged him toward the back exit. "But honestly, I think he would have said yes. Everyone has a price." He was gone before Anna could respond. The restaurant emptied out fast. Luca's men clearing out the witnesses. Marco ushering traumatized customers out with promises of free meals. Within 20 minutes, only Anna and Luca remained. She sat at the bar, her hands trembling. "He's wrong. I wouldn't have." "I know." Luca poured 2 whiskeys, sliding one across to her. "But Russo was right about one thing. You are wasted serving pasta." Anna looked up sharply. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you have a choice now. A real one." Luca leaned against the bar. "Walk away. I'll honor my promise. Protection until Russo backs down. Then you're free. Back to your normal life. Or you stay." His voice was careful, measured. Not trying to bait her. Not treating her like a victim. As someone who understands this world and chooses to be part of it anyway. He paused. "I could use someone who sees things others miss. Someone brave enough to whisper warnings instead of running." Anna's mind raced. She thought about her apartment, her mom, her simple life of shifts and bills and exhaustion. She thought about tonight, the fear, yes, but also the clarity, the purpose, the feeling that she'd actually mattered for once. "If I stay," she said slowly, "I'm not your employee. I'm not your asset." "Then what are you?" Anna met his eyes, unflinching. "Your partner, equal stake, equal say. You want my eyes and my instincts? Then you trust me completely." A smile played on Luca's lips. "Deal." She picked up her whiskey glass, holding it up. "To terrible decisions and dangerous partnerships." Luca clinked his glass against hers. "To the waitress who saved my life. To the mafia boss who gave me a choice." They drank. Outside, Boston glittered dangerous and beautiful and full of shadows. Anna had stepped into those shadows willingly, not because she had to, but because she chose to. And for the first time in years, she felt fully, terrifyingly alive.